And welcome back. We're picking up where we left off last time in Shadow Empire in Fontus, some aliens. It's round 334, and we have 8 decisions awaiting us. One of which is a dome breach. We failed to take the city, filling the demand. Although we probably will take it soon. Procyon Bot is our robotic infantry called. Incident at the library. We currently like mine.
Roger that. Yes, sir.
Worked out there wasn't very viable heavy thopters in this map. Is there any unit models that we're using right now that could do a once-over? We're not there with the rifle 7, we're only up to 64%. Machine gun, we're only up to 40%. Motorized transports are up to 60. 78. We really want to push like the 80s. 17. 52. 58. 37, 75. We're getting close with the tanks. Is there any actual Blitzer 2s left deployed? No, they've all been lost in combat. So we set you to obsolete. 78, so getting close to the armor, regular armor. Apparently I actually had some Tigers at some point that we deployed. I don't know where they are, or if we still have them. Those are Galactic Republic tanks. I think we don't have them anymore. The helicopters don't have enough field testing yet. And... well, we haven't actually used any of the fighter bombers, to be fair. Tactical bomber, up to 72. Yeah, unless there's a type that I just haven't researched. We're not going to bother with the assault guns and the tank destroyers and the heavy thopters. Haven't done turrets, so those aren't going to show up yet. Okay, I think we can just hit no here for the moment.
Acknowledged. Confirming orders.
Affirmative. Roger that.
Acknowledged. Confirming orders.
New commander. Okay, that's going to be something that's reasonably easy to deal with. Grab a couple militaries off the bench.
Roger that.
One of them gets the job. Camp 3 with some actual skill versus a Cap 1 with no skill. Okay. In fact, you're so bad, I know we just hired you. You're being fired.
Roger that. Roger that.
No real gain on victory progress. Fuel depot, food silo, railhead, all finished. Railhead should help with the logistics. Fuel depot and grain silo should help with storage.
I'm on it. I'm on it.
Oh, should do ammo depot as well. I actually capped out the ammo depot in the capital as well. Yes, ammo fuel has been capped in the capital. We're working on food right now, are we? Yes. Oh, and we should be getting more food in soon because we're about to finish the hydroponics up as well. Okay, not bad. No delays on the last turn, just things that have already been delayed. Okay, supplies did come through, so it is time to launch offensives.
Birds are in the sky. Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. Birds are in the sky. Birds are in the sky. Whiskey Tango Foxtrot.
Okay, that's the information we're going to get. Yeah, we are getting predictions that based on a recon now, that they are having supply issues. We don't get to see what they're failing to receive on their supply, but we are seeing that they are receiving issues with it. I suspect it is probably ammunition and not food. Although it is across the entire front, so unless they are still struggling from the last time they attacked to get resupplied, it could be food too. If it is food, this attack may prove very easy. Because the predictor here doesn't usually include the malices for ammunition shortage or food shortage.
Engage the enemy.
Mission successful.
We did suffer 2 subunit casualties for 20 destroyed. So it was a 10-to-1 odd, so not too bad. This is a follow-up attack. This one's probably not going to work because there were some units that were not involved in the last fight involved in this one.
Going in.
Target destroyed.
27 subunits destroyed for 5. So, yeah, it was worse. It was actually better than I was expecting, honestly. Again, not necessarily an attack that's going to be particularly spectacular, because there is a lot of enemy units here. But again, one that if they're having supply issues like we think they are, that is not good for their attrition.
Going in. Mission successful.
55 subunits lost to none. Okay, that's not good for them. This is the attack on the city. So if this is successful, I think they won't be able to receive any more food. They haven't put up an emergency port. Although we are attacking to an urban area with a lot of vehicles for this attack.
Move out.
Yeah, I'm starting to suspect they maybe not even getting enough of their food, because that was a little easier than I was expecting. They lost 3 subunits, or we lost 3 subunits, they lost 35. So there goes the defense of the city collapsing. Okay, I think that's what we're going to do for the turn. We still have the 20th Infantry marching up from the rear. And well, we just secured 100,000 people, so we'll see how much of a victory point swing that does. Again, if we can swing it by 1.2% victory score, we win. The game ends. So that might have been the turn that wins the game. It may not have been the turn that wins the game. So I'm mentally prepared for both outcomes. In fact, I suspect it probably isn't the turn that ends the game. It'll probably be a big swing in comparison to some of the other turns, but probably not a winning swing.
Standing by. Order acknowledged. Order acknowledged.
Standing by. I'm on it. I'm on it.
Okay, let's... Oh, then I should, before we cycle turn, I should build the replacements. I think that's it. And yeah, at some point we're going to want to start to raise robotic troops. A lot of robotic troops. So 70 metal, so this is for 10 subunits. 70 metal. Yeah, we could probably raise a couple units of that. How many do I want down here? Coast Guard duties, 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Say like 11 if we can get 11 down here. Yeah, this is one of the reasons we need to build a bunch more high-tech parts, because we've got the machine part income to support this. We don't have the high-tech part income to support this necessarily. This is one reason also why I often raise brigades, because raising 11 battalions after one after another is a little slow. But I don't want to waste the leadership on what is a glorified Coast Guard assignment here. Okay, that's not quite... Or did I recruit more than I was expecting? Recruited 13. Okay, that's probably enough to start. Okay, we'll cycle the turn, we'll see how much of a victory score the 4,000 slaves and the 100,000 people from the city we just took is. in victory score. I say, and then realize I should probably do this and that. And
Roger that.
there we go. Cycle turn. Let's see what we get. Nothing out of Nebel. Although we're at peace with the Nebel, so there's a small chance they could declare on us. Same with the Total Land. Same, I suppose, with the fourth one. This 4 is still alive. Might only be 3 still alive. There's Becker. Again, we still have a border with Becker, so Becker could get up to something. We see them moving around. The question is, are they going to attack, or are they just sort of moving? So they could have also set up an emergency shipping line. Try to ship in supplies. Yep, and we won the game. Adams Range Imperium, you have won the game. We have suffered no losses, nor made any kills. We have 5 decisions awaiting us if we were to continue the game. Decade of Revolution, Izeron has fallen. And apparently Izeron plus the 4,000 or so people we got was enough VP to win the game. Your strength is now so big, the others do not stand a chance anymore. You have won the game. Victory overview. So yeah, that was about 1.4% of victory score between the hex change and the population change. So 100,000 people was a notable amount of people. And yeah, this is definitely a situation where their situation is falling apart. They did, okay, so they did do an emergency zone found. So they've not, and an emergency makeshift port. So they've got an emergency supply line in here. So that's probably what's happening, is we're probably seeing them try to form a defensive cauldron around the emergency supply location. Which, specifically over here, means, yeah, they're out of supply. They have to pull back. They've got like 5 hexes from here. An open terrain, and it's not open, it's savanna, marsh. Right, so they've probably only got supply, maybe not even under there. These guys might just not have been able to move from loss of readiness. So they probably just got a small cauldron around here where they can actually fight. So this be the end of the run. We're up to, obviously we just got off a 50% victory score, so we've just won. Construction was basically going at speed. We had I had 2 delays on storage depots that we were building. Mining reserves. This was a pretty barren planet on anything but oil, and then even oil, there wasn't a lot of oil, there was just good quality oil, which we did demonstrate was capable of being drained. We did completely deplete a oil field. Tech-wise, this is where we were. Technology, we were on slow game speed. So it was, if you were on normal game speed, you probably in this amount of time would have finished the tech tree. And in fact, that was the one time I actually lost, I think was on normal game speed. And that was from them, maybe even been on fast game speed. That was from the AI getting to the ICBMs. These really hurt to be on the receiving end of. They're kind of, in game terms, meant to be the tiebreakers. Right, so if you're in a stalemate, the ICBMs really end stalemates. There's a little bit of counterplay against them, which probably would work in multiplayer, but against the AI has ways of kind of ignoring the ICBMs because of how they play around the rules. Types, these are aircraft, these are all our stuff. We did get rifle 1 through 7. We did get a robotic infantry. We never really got around to deploying the robotic infantry in mass, but that was what we were moving towards. So we could replace the Coast Guard, free up the conscripts, or free up the militia to disband and become population. Profile, we were trying to do democracy, enforcement, and fist at the beginning. Eventually, for diplomatic reasons, we gave up and swapped to mind. So we were at the end in mind, enforcement, and democracy. I wasn't getting very good events to stay enforcement. This is something I tend to find in this trifecta is it's really easy to stay decent commerce, and I find it hard to stay specifically government. Government's atrocious to try to stay government. Not that government is weak or anything. It's just it's hard to get good, reliable stream of events to give you government. Whereas lots of events, especially if you have the story packs on. The story packs give you lots of events that give you commerce, like interacting with the corporation often gives you commerce. So it's really easy to get commerce, which partially is what makes it hard to be enforcement, because either you've got to say no to all those commerce events, which we were kind of trying to do, but you can see even here, I think we had a higher enforcement at some point. We were like 70, 80. We were struggling near the end to keep it up that high, because we were just getting so many commerce events, commerce government events. Democracy, if you low-key, if you just sort of not make your cities utopic, democracy, because everyone's really got strikes and stuff like that, and it's really easy to be like, oh, you're striking, here, have some money to deal with whatever the problem is, to farm democracy. Democracy is easy to farm. Out of this trifecta, democracy is easy to farm because it's just money. Autocracy is also really easy to get. Again, if you're kind of ignoring minor problems, you can get autocracy by sending the troops in to suppress the unrest. Merit's the hard one on that trifecta. Fist is hard often because it makes you do hard decisions. It's the we gotta fight choice. Mind is we want to be brainiacs, which is why we were so easy to swap from fist to mind. I find a heart is really hard to get reliably. There's some nice stuff in there. Plus 40% morale, especially with some of the reworks that's in the works for morale. That would be pretty good. Loyalty bonus, great. Again, sometimes hard to get. People loyalty bonus, that's real great. Morale, more character, more people loyalty. First one here in Fist is the militia stuff, which is why we went Fist. That was working until the militias just stopped being super useful from a logistics standpoint. Warlust, casualties. Again, this was really useful early game. Combat bonus is just always nice. Higher casualties. I think that by the time we were having that into effect, that wasn't really helpful, but combat bonus would be nice. And again, casualty stuff is fine. Research, great. Culture adjustment bonus, great. Research, great. Culture adjustment. You see, this is the Brainiac line. Brains. Enforcement is resource extraction from your civilians, so tax bonus, logistics bonus, recruitment bonus. Hello, Twitch chat. We just finished up the run, so I'm just sort of doing an after-action report before we transition over to Songs of Six. I may bring the stream down between the two parts, just to change the title and the game category while I make the tea. But I'm gonna do an after-action report, going through all the stuff in this save. But yeah, more taxes. So if you want to tax, enforcement's really good. Also, I'm definitely warming up to efficiency drive. Efficiency drive is really good. Works a lot like private investment, but instead of the private economy getting the money, the government, gets the money. Private investment Private investment is what makes commerce real fun to play, because you basically can throw money at the capitalists using political power, and then if you've got some sales tax, eventually they will spend it, and you get paid the sales tax. Private economy bonus, pop happiness bonus, commerce bonus, so on and so forth. So commerce is really fun to play. It also has improvised IP, so if you've got money, you can turn it to IP. So, and then government is bureaucracy, industry, worker happiness. Government. The hard thing with government, I tend to find, is getting government in sufficient things to get higher levels of it, but not bad either. Twitch is asking, do I ever use Notepad or a calculator when playing? Depends. I've used the I use calculator sometimes, and usually it's the phone calculator for Victoria 3. Especially when doing electrification in Victoria 3. I have a notepad in front of me with all the reminders of what projects to look for in Terra Invicta. But frequently I don't take notes about what I'm playing, especially because I'm streaming, because I can always go back and look at the videos and I'm really like, oh, what did I do? What should I do? But yeah, sometimes for math, especially, again, electrification in Victoria 3. I try to do mental math if I can do it. Just to practice math. But yeah, when it comes to sort of the more mathy math, I'll try to use the calculator sometimes. Don't usually bring it up on stream. Which I suppose is something I could do. I could probably figure out a way to display the calculator on the stream. So this is at least what we knew about the map when the game ended. So we started over on this continent. We then, through exploration, found that there were minor factions on this continent, so we expanded, landed over here, expanded, well, sort of diplomatically added the miners down here. And then this was mostly non-aligned territory up here, except for where the other majors landed. We eventually did fight the other majors off of this island, took this one over. Around about then was when we figured out that they were sentient aliens over here, and a couple other minor nations over here. So we befriended the sentient aliens, landed, got them to unify with us, expanded into the minor factions over here through diplomacy, and then obviously the war to win the game was fighting down and down and down the tiny narrow peninsula down here. That's pretty much the territorial movement in the game. Let me see, stat window. So in here we can see total troops. So that's our total troops, which most of the time is increasing. We generally generated enough replacements to cover troop losses. And we can see that Becker... Oh, actually, Becker was doing a pretty decent job at maintaining their troop numbers. That was Nebel that crashed. Nebel got up there, close to where we were at the end of the game, and began to crash. Although they stabilized around about 300,000. It's around about where Nebel, or where Becker was stable. But yeah, we can see in the end we had more troops than everyone, although a bunch of that was probably militia. This is the casualty sustainment. We were attacking near the end, so our casualties were expanding. Twitch is asking me, what is my favorite game? Ooh, a loaded question. I've played too many games at this point, and it's hard to pick just one. Probably one of my more favorite ones to stream is this one, which is Shadow Empire. But I've had all sorts of favorite games over the years. Some are more nostalgia-based than actually just being good games, right? I've played way back in the day, things like Star Wars Galactic Battlegrounds and Stronghold and all sorts of old games. But yeah, here we can see the casualties sustained. We were up Oh, actually, I thought that was us. That's Becker. We can see we're reflecting quite a few casualties on Becker. They're up to almost up to 800,000 casualties. We were only peaking 250,000, so we were doing like 3-to-1 casualty ratio on them. I don't think we weren't the only ones fighting Nebel, but again, Nebel almost lost 500,000. Montgomery about 1/10 of a million. The Rebels. Becker lost. Oof, that's probably one of the reasons Becker ends up losing. Is they lose basically 250,000 in Rebels for me inspiring rebellion in their rear. Yeah. Okay. This is casualties inflicted when this comes up. Here we go. Okay, so we were not the big casualty inflictor. We only got up a little over 500,000. Nebel pushed 800-ish million. And then Becker was pushing almost 700 million. So yeah, most of the casualties were inflicted by those two majors. We were actually coming up in third, as far as actually inflicting casualties. This is zone population, which is too much of a mess to really look at. Although you can see that's I think that's Lancaster. Yeah, our biggest city was actually one of the miners we integrated. Zone happy. We have too many zones for the zone stuff to be super readable. Period of manpower. We definitely had, near the end of the game, we had more manpower than everyone else. That makes sense. And in fact, the people we were fighting, specifically Becker's, was losing manpower. Tech level. Okay, so we did, about mid-game, begin to out-tech everyone else. That's partially part of the reason we were probably seeing us in battle dress versus them in heavy combat armor. Although this probably would have been around about when we were seeing them in heavy combat armor, is when we were overtaking them. And our admin level, which I think is the square root of admin generated. So we have more admin points generated than them, so that makes sense. Civilization level was on average higher, which is one of the reasons our people were reasonably happy near the end. Victory score, and you can see how that trends over time. Ours is generally trending up. A couple big jumps, probably when we're integrating miners. Nebel gets up to about the 20s and sort of sits between 20 and 15. Totaling got up to about 5, 6. Stayed around there. Montgomery. Becker. Becker is obviously the one we were fighting. And they at one point were number 2, so we drove him from number 2 to last. You can see our various troop qualities. So, regular militia, seasoned militia, veteran militia. So near the end, most of our militia were actually quite veteran, because they were just old enough. Yeah, and you can actually see the regulars, because our militia just stopped growing after a certain point, right? So the regulars stopped existing because they became seasoned, and then the seasoned started becoming veteran. And then troops didn't ever have that many green troops in a given time. Troop quality generally improved to regular, then to seasoned, and apparently didn't keep many of our troops, or our professional troops must have been too active to ever get up to veteran, because they reliably got killed. Unlike the militia, where we were just sitting around looking, yep, 1/3 of a million troops, or militia just sitting around getting purely veteraned. Here's our recruits. This, because of how this is scaling, because it's also got manpower on the page here, it's not super readable. Population. So what that looks like, 2.5 million, another 500,000 workers. I'm reading that right. And inventories, yeah, we started to bloat our inventory near the end. Casualties, you can see the turn-to-turn casualties. No turn did we break 10,000 casualties, apparently. Although there definitely were some turns where it felt like I did. Most of the times it was lower thousands. There were batches where we weren't losing troops. I think that is those menus. Do a quick overview. So we had Neville, Toadlin, Becker. Oh, those were the 3 that were still alive at the end that we knew about? Was there only 3 of them alive? Worm. Why am I not seeing Worm? I might have to like intern or resign or something to see Worm. It probably didn't have any spies in them. That's probably what's going on. Yeah, so Totalin has about 250,000 people at the end. Becker, about 500,000. Yeah, must be who I have spies on. Okay. And then we have quite a few people. We got 2.7 million people with another 700,000 workers. So we were definitely winning at the end. This is the planetology for the planet. So this was a Fontus planet, 0.34 G, 28 C average temperature. Low amount of heavy elements, which definitely interesting from a resource standpoint. There wasn't a lot of, well, don't think there were any heavy or any rare earth mines. We had 1 radioactive mine. I think we'd basically developed every metal mine we had option to. And there was definitely oil. That was really the only thing that was in abundance of. This was a planet where we had 3.5 million survivors, and this is a... Actually, I think population-wise, that basically means we owned as much people... Almost as much people live in our nation at the end of the game as there were survivors at the beginning of the game. So that's showing you population growth. Everyone who's not in us could have been population growth during the entire game. So the population grew a little over 50%. 50-60% over the course of the game. This is the type of atmosphere it was. This wasn't no outdoor farming. And then the alien tissue had 0 value. Oh, and someone did tell me, I was getting this, misreading this as combat. It's actually compat, so it's compatibility of the xenobiology. So I was misreading that earlier on. But yeah, that's the run here. Twitch chat, on a slightly different note, was asking me, what's my favorite combat? Oh... to be fair, someone who plays a lot of games, it changes from day to day. Some days I want something that's a little more action-y. Some days I want stuff that's turn-based combat like this. It depends upon how I feel about my dexterity, to be fair. Some days you just don't feel dexterous to do high-speed combat, like RTS and stuff. Some days you're just like, yeah, no, I want to go play Age of Empires or something, which requires quite a bit of micro, if you're decent in the game. But yeah, this is going to be the end of this run here. If you're watching on YouTube, you can probably expect there to be a Songs of 6 episode up tomorrow. We're going to do the transition over to the next game. If you're watching on Twitch, I hope you have been enjoying. I am going to go ahead and take the stream down to go make a new cup of tea. And then when I am back with the cup of tea, we're going to be trying to play Songs of 6, assuming I can get the streaming to work on that. So until the next time, I'm going to wish you all the best of luck and a good time. Catch you all in the next part, and bye for now.